All right, we are live for the 50th episode of the Tempest Rising podcast, which means with a weekly episode, we're approaching a year worth of podcasts. How impressive. I'm impressed with myself anyway. So this week, the videos you're going to get are going to be highly applicable. Most of the stuff that I produce that is applicable and actionable goes within the group, but I wanted to give you guys something that you could actually do. So today's episode is 3 simple steps for beating a bad day. At the end of the day, you're going to have bad days. It happens. Life happens. Other people happen. Things that are within day-to-day living are going to happen, and it's not your fault. It's not within your control. You can't and you shouldn't expect to be able to control everything within your life. If you do, you're going to exhaust yourself, and it's just impossible. You can't manhandle the external world. You can't force the world to do what you want it to do. And so you're fighting a losing battle in trying to do that. So what we need to do instead is be able to relinquish control and have a level of freedom, but then have tools and things in place that allow us to deal with it when the shit hits the fan. So we need to be able to look inwards and take our control onto ourselves and remove it from the external world. So rather than worrying about what's going on over there that I cannot control, I'm going to bring it inwards and focus on what I can control. And what we're going to do is look at 3 super simple things that you can do to do that, to get that control back and to essentially, I don't want to say fix because that suggests that something's broken, but to improve a bad day. Improve is a better word. So 3 simple steps. I like to call it the shit stopper method. So the first step is syncing the brainwaves. Okay, so step 1, sync. There is a direct link between your mind, your body, and your emotions. So when you start to get upset and things get out of control and they get crazy, your brainwaves start to shift and they start to rise. And as they rise, so do your emotions, so do your stress hormones. Things get frazzled and it feels extremely hard. You can't think straight and your body enters the fight or flight mode, the survival mode. So the more you give into that, the worse it gets. Instead, what we need to do is shift that, drop the brainwaves down and leave that fight or flight survival mode and return to a balanced state. When we return to that balanced state, we're able to think clearly and then act accordingly. We're not a victim of our emotions, and we're able to step outside of it and then look within, which leads nicely into step 2, which is to separate. So in dropping the brainwaves and creating that level of balance within the mind and the emotions and our physiology, we can then step outside and take an unbiased look at the situation. We can separate ourselves from it and consider what's really happening, not what your emotions are telling you is happening. I talk a lot about frames and perceptions and beliefs and all that kind of stuff. Having the ability to step outside of all of that and not be ruled by your emotions allows you to see things from an unbiased perspective, and that makes it easier for you to make decisions and then act accordingly rather than creating a knee-jerk response. Because when we act on impulse, we usually get ourselves into trouble and make things worse. If we can separate, we can create a different outcome. So something I would ask yourself if you're in a particularly shitty situation is it important? Is it going to matter next month? Is what you're thinking is even the case? Is this really true? Because a lot of the time our mind will take things and it will twist them and it will change them and it'll embellish things. It will take a fact and create its own fiction. What you're actually thinking is happening probably isn't, and it's probably not going to matter in the long run. This is where the ability to find perspective proves to be really powerful. I have a tool that I created for this called the redefinition document, and it's housed within the Limitless group. So if you want to get your hands on that, you can just drop me a message or drop me a comment and I'll give you a link to the group. But any kind of journaling or handwritten piece can really help you with creating that new perspective around the situation. Whenever you write something down, it's an energy transference. So it's taking the emotions and the feelings and all that kind of stuff and putting it somewhere else. And it's just helping to reinforce that separation. So we're simply moving ourselves away and then looking at it from the outside without that emotional fog, without all the stress and stuff clouding our judgment. Then when we've done that, we can move into step 3, which is search. So now that you've dropped your brainwaves and got out of survival mode, you've shifted yourself away from everything, you've separated from the situation and found some perspective, you can actually consider what's really there and find a lesson within it. You can search out a lesson. So in any situation, no matter how bad it is, there is always something to be taken from it. In a world of darkness, there is always a teeny tiny bit of light somewhere. And if you have an open mind and the ability to separate and do all of these other things, you will always be able to find a tiny piece of good. There's always something, whether that is a piece of knowledge in the form of a lesson or whether it's an opportunity. There is always something there. You can always, always, always search out something useful and take it away. Even if it's a lesson in what not to do. You might have completely balls up, but at least you'll learn what not to do next time. So, to summarize, my 3-step shit stopper method to fix a bad day. I hate that word fix, that's such a bad day. Improve a bad day, that's such a bad word, is as follows. Sync the brainwaves and get out of survival mode. There's a tool coming on Thursday's video to help you with this. So make sure you're following my personal page because that's where it's going to be. That'll help you with that. Any kind of breath work will help with that. If you already have something you do, fantastic. If you don't, watch on Thursday and I'll give you something to do. 2, separate from the situation and put it into perspective. As I already said, any kind of journaling exercise will help with this, but there is a specific tool, a document that we use within the Limitless group that you guys can have access to. Just ask me for it and I'll give you access. And then 3 is to search. Search for something that you can take away from this, a lesson in what to do, a lesson in what not to do, or an opportunity. Easy peasy. So hopefully you've found that helpful. 3 simple steps for beating a bad day, also known as my 3-step shit stopper method. Take a look at Thursday's video because that will give you an activity to do for step 1. Jump in the group, which will give you something for step 2. And then step 3 is something that just really needs to be practiced and takes time. So I'm out. Any questions? Let me know in the comments. Look out for Thursday's video, and if you want to get in the group and get your hands on the redefinition document, just let me know and I'll let you in. See you all later.